Gravenberch picked up a silly yellow card when going to ground, but John, I thought he was brilliant again.
His best game. Last week was his best game for Liverpool. This week was the best game for Liverpool. He's getting better week in, week out. We're beginning to see his talents. We're going to see he's got great pace. He's got great recovery pace, which we haven't had as a number 6 for. I can't remember the last time we had a number 6 with pace. He's starting to show that he's decent in the tackle. He's can pass with both feet. He's very comfortable on the ball.
His first touch is brilliant.
Yeah, he's got everything he needs. He's got to learn the role, and the people around him have got to learn him in the role as well. I said before, I think that's probably one of the reasons Szoboszlai plays, because he's there to help with his pace as well and his strength. McAllister's strangely quiet for me in both games. Given how much he was the focus last year. And I don't think he's playing badly, but he's not the standout midfield player as yet. He's probably doing his job nice and quietly on the side there. I'm not sure whether just getting used to being on the left. But Szoboszlai obviously is very, very important, and I think a lot of that is down to Gravenberch now doing this new role and learning on the job.
Steve, what did you make of Gravenberch?
All the things you guys have said, his first touch is ridiculous. We've spoken about that many times. He is learning. That was a tactical foul, and we've been crying out for those from Liverpool players for years because we've conceded goals where people have decided not to do it. There's still unanswered questions for me. He's not played up against someone trying to dominate him. We have to take into consideration, and I'm not downplaying his 2 performances, but it is Ipswich and it is Brentford. They didn't really offer much in terms of centre of the park, either of them. Brentford's game is to get the ball up to Wissa and Wemo and try and cause you problems and do that quickly. Ipswich into the lap and try and see if you can get something out of that. So I think when we play against teams, when he goes up against a team with 2 or 3 really physical players, Chelsea will be an interesting game for him because Caicedo and Enzo and Lavia are physical players who will ask a lot more of him. And if I have a question, it's has he got the dog in him for those games, and we'll find out. But you made a really interesting point a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about we brought players into the club and and we've moved them into positions and they've thrived in those positions. And you can be a deep line midfielder, not necessarily a 6, so to speak, and use the attributes he's got, which is he'll take the ball under pressure and you're not getting it off him because he's such a good touch and he's a big fella as well, isn't he? And then he can control that position in a different way than rolling the sleeves up and having a fight, and I think that's what you're going to get from him. Whilst he's got a lot of the things that John says, good recovery pace, the ability to bring someone down and get a yellow card for a tactical foul, we haven't seen that before. So it's really interesting, a piece of work to watch how he grows into that position. There will be games when he may struggle physicality wise because McAllister's a great footballer and he's a little bit physical, but they're both playing quite high because we want to win balls in high positions and create chances. So I think there's some unanswered questions for him, and that's not a criticism. That's just how it is.
Yeah, but you played 2 games.
2 games into the season.
I remember last year saying that he was clearly a very, very talented guy, but his talent was wasted. And I think I said it just went up like smoke at the, it was pointless. You're a brilliant footballer, but it's pointless if nothing happens because of it. Yeah. Well, I think he's changed that now. He is starting to make an impact on the game. There's so much potential there.
Yeah, if I'm going to see something I've seen on Twitter, so excuse me. If we'd have signed the 6 2 weeks ago and he put in 2 performances like Gravenberch had done, we're all singing from the hilltops how we've got the next best 6 in the league, haven't we?
Yeah, the new Patrick Vieira.
It is interesting and it's fine margins, and that new 6 putting in those performances would still only have come up against Ipswich and Brentford as well, and it is funny. And I mean, listen, I still want us to sign a 6. A bit more of what Arne Slot wants. There was a reason that he wanted Zubimendi. There was a reason. It was because he thought Zubimendi was a better fit than Gravenberch.
He's a controller, isn't he?
He's a controller. No, I understand that. Now, Gravenberch could surprise us, could surprise Slot, and go on to be the guy that he wants him to be. But it would still surprise me if we didn't sign someone. Are you going to be screaming, John, on Twitter, FSG out if we don't sign a 6, or are you happy to just sell this experiment?
Out, but I can't get my head around the fact that Zubimendi is the only person in the world who can do that job. Because that's the message that's coming out of Anfield. There is no one else in the whole world who can do the job if we can't have Zubimendi. What?
Yeah. The only other person apparently was already in our squad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which makes it even more banal, isn't it? The fact that actually we had the only other guy. Come on, what are the chances?
We need some cover in there. We need some cover in a couple of positions. We know that because the season's long and the new Champions League format is insane in terms of what it will take out of the players. So
I said before, 6 midfield players we've got more or less now, and I don't think that's enough.
Yeah. It isn't, but of the 6, Endo will be on the periphery, and then you've got, Tyler Morton hasn't gone anywhere yet, so he's still
a possibility, but
but they're not players you can go to an away game in the Champions League and rely on, and you shouldn't rely on those players in that regard. But if the manager's saying I'm okay working with these guys, I wouldn't. There's already suggestions. He's a yes man. That's insane.
But there should be someone at the club saying we're going to be playing 2 games a week pretty much solidly, from October through till March. So, we do need more players in the squad.
Interestingly, I think on average, and it's something Neil Atkinson said to us the other day, is, and I've not checked it, but I'm sure it's right, he only really used 17 players last season in Feyenoord all season long, over, I think he said 500 minutes or something like that. So that is a big change from the Dutch League and Feyenoord to Liverpool and the Champions League and the Carabao and the extra cup competition and everything else. You do learn, and Jürgen learned as well in his first couple of years that, think about what Jürgen did at the start. Jürgen was talking about a small squad. These are my boys. Yada, yada, yada. Look at last season. After a year where you lose your centre-halves and after a year where you have injuries, Jürgen used about 30 players all told and won a cup with the kids because he learned over 9 years. It does take time sometimes for managers to learn this.
The other thing is we won the Carabao Cup with the kids. We're selling off all the kids. Who's playing in the Carabao Cup this year? Well, if you've sold off all the kids, then it's going to be Harvey Elliott, it's going to be Gomez, it's going to be all the people who are on the bench.
And you have to win it
then. When there are injuries and you have to put them into the first team, then, where do you go then?
It's a really difficult one because whilst I'm concerned by the number of sales, is it the right thing for the football club to identify those that don't think they're going to make the journey and get the cash in for them? That's a sensible thing to do for me. But you're quite right.
No, I understand that, but at the same time, you've got to make sure you've got enough players to play every. I mean, 2 years ago we played every possible game in the season, every single one. You're not going to do that with this squad. No.
And funny for me, the one that hurt the most of the outgoing so far was Bobby Clark, because. Zeb Vandenberg, I get it, he might get game time. Carvalho I never really thought was ever near the first team, so I wasn't too asked. But Bobby Clark, I really did think was on the periphery.
Yeah. And I was the opposite. I thought, I couldn't see Bobby Clark making it through to the first team. But Carvalho is a goal scorer, and you don't give up goal scorers if that's so.
I'm with you on the Bobby Clark thing, and I'm with you on the Fabio thing. I think I can see why they've both gone, because I think when you look at it, sentiment is a thing in football that's difficult, isn't it? And I think we referenced Klopp was a sentimental guy like that, wasn't he? And if you've looked at it, and this is the interesting thing with Bajcetic, all I can think is that year out for Bajcetic has set him so far back that the club have looked at it and said he's just not ready to play in the first team. He might never be.
He's been injured a long time, Bajcetic, but I mean the quality and the potential is still there, and I would hate for them to sell him. Don't mind him going on loan, because I do think he needs games.
I honestly think if Liverpool sell him, they know he's crocked from that injury.
Yeah.
And that can be the only thing, because he was too good prior to the injury to not give him a chance on a loan deal.